Hi there, this is Walking and Talking. Now I'm going to record the video where I'll talk for maybe 20, maybe 15 minutes while I'm walking from Anninki to Kaluga. Well, that's kind of funny because it's my first experiment with such a format. Usually I record myself when I just when I'm at home and I put a camera and I start talking about whatever may bother me, and it's my kind of usual experience. But now I decided, well, it's better if I look like it's not actually I don't like to look at the camera. It's better if I look like straightforward, and so I just talk, because in this case it gives me more opportunities for a better self-expression, because looking at the camera makes me feeling stupid, and so I can't focus primarily on my thoughts. I'm focusing mostly on, it's like I try to imagine how I look, and it makes me a little bit, I don't have the word. Okay, it makes me feel stupid. Yeah, and when I look straightforward, it's much better. But sometimes, of course, I can look at the camera and just say hello. Okay, the point is that I am making an experiment, just try to record myself while I'm walking, well, just to see how it will go. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure whether the quality of my speech, I mean the sound, will good or bad. I don't know. If it's good, maybe I will continue such videos, such experiments, because I actually walk a lot. Like every day I walk for I don't know, 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers is like, I walk 5 kilometers almost every day, but not in the forest, basically in town. And of course in town it's kind of awkward to keep a camera and talk to yourself. But here in this place it's like really amazing. There's nobody around, just cars and trees and sky and me talking about something, I don't know. Okay, it's like kind of video journal, and I want to think, I want to focus on something which is going on in my mind and think about that. I want to take a thought and develop it, as far as I can develop it. I'm not sure that it's a correct expression, but doesn't matter. The point is that I want to develop my thoughts, and I usually do it like in a different environment. And now I just want to talk and see which kind of thoughts will pop up after, like not after, but in this environment, because probably it will be something different. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm gonna say next. Just a random process. I just turned on the camera and opened my mouth and start talking. And now I can stop. I mean, of course I can stop if it's necessary, but it's not the way how I usually work with such, stuff. Yeah, if I started talking, I prefer to discover something. I don't like just start talking and don't see anything. I like to start talking and find something interesting, and then take it and develop it. And it's my way of learning a foreign language. Not just memorizing some shit, but working on your thoughts, or on my thoughts, or just on thoughts, because who knows whose these thoughts are. I mean, of course it's mine, but am I really this entity which produces these thoughts? Well, I'm not sure. I mean, of course I am in control. It feels as I am in control, and that everything I say is kind of, you know, it's I do it intentionally. But the point is that I don't know what I will say next, and I just try to focus on something what's really what's right now in my mind. And well, again, it's kind of complicated. I can't say that I make thoughts, or that I think and this I is responsible for these thoughts. I think it's better to consider it as a kind of, you know, as a kind of process that goes on automatically. So for example, now I'm talking and this speech is produced like by my body because it gets in special circumstances. And so if I think that somebody who thinks these thoughts, that's okay. If I think that I am just an observer who watches these thoughts and just verbalize them, it's also okay. I can even divide myself in like few parts, like yeah, I like to do it in writing because it's a powerful technique when you take like some writers, for example, like Pessoa. Let's talk about Pessoa. Last week I was reading this book, the book of Disquiet. So it's a kind of interesting character. He had for about 50 heteronyms. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but it's kind of alter ego. So it's like you create a character, you make a biography of this character, and it's like it's a kind of you. Well, and this you consider it's like your second person, let's say. And he made like 47 or something, like these characters, different characters, who just wrote their own books from it's like considering themselves as special, like it's like writing a novel, but it differs from a usual novel in a way, like for example, in usual novel, when you write it, you make characters, and characters are like, they're just characters. Well, and when you read the novel, you understand that there's like 5-6 characters, and they all interact with each other, and it like constitutes a novel. But here we have a man who just make one character, act it out in his imagination, write something, then make another character, act it out. And it's like, if, for example, if I take myself, I have two characters. I mean, in literature, I write from my own name, and I also write from the name Velibor Zastavkin. And so Velibor Zastavkin is a kind of character or entity which I created, and basically it's a Russian, like when I started writing in English, I prefer to use my own name, but in Russian, I like Velibor Zastavkin. It's let's say it's my Russian character, but it's not just like in Pessoa, for example. What he did, he took all like different moods or intentions or feelings, and he made, like for example, imagine a man who just like to, you know, to what? To eat a lot, and his whole life is dedicated to, you know, eating lots of different food, and he just goes around and eat everything he can eat. And he thinks all the time about food, he overwhelmed by food. And if you take this like kind of desire eating, and you can just make a character out of it, so that this desire manifests itself through a character. And then you write a story, or a biography of that person. And then you take another character, like somebody who likes to write, for example, who is obsessed with writing and writes every day, or somebody who is obsessed with some kind of sport, or just desires. So you have a desire, for example, again, to eat, to drink, to have sex, maybe some emotions like proud, like anger. Yeah, we can take anger, or we can take, some kind of anger, fear. Yeah, like we can take fear and make a character out of fear. Like this man, he's like a manifestation of fear. Well, and this man Piso, he just was, he made lots of characters out of different, but they all, I don't, like the book of Disquiet is written by one of his character, alter ego, but I haven't read it yet. Like at the end, I just started reading it, and I read only 100 pages or something like that. So I can say that his different characters has different worldview. But I read about this in Wikipedia. I mean, I haven't read like other characters. I read only one, but I know that he made like different characters, and they all possess like different worldview or something like that. Yeah, and when I think about that on my own, it's kind of interesting that like I can take and create my own characters. And for example, now it's like a kind of it's a one character. So a man who walks in in the forest and talks about whatever he can tell. Another character is a man who writes books and like focused on this. Another character, a man who like engaged in sport, and somebody who who conducts speaking club. It's kind of funny, of course I understand that it's like they all are some sub-personalities, but also I can consider them as really different like parts of myself. And when I'm in this business of self-learning, or as Greeks call it gnosis out, and learn yourself. I'm in this business for like 11 years. Yeah, 11 fucking years I'm studying myself, and it's when I realized that it is possible just study yourself. I mean, when you take yourself as an object, like you take objects or subjects in school, like you study mathematics. What do you study? You study numbers, you study relationships between numbers, study different equations, and the whole knowledge which humanity gathered up during its development about numbers. And so you study mathematics, and well, in the same way you can study yourself. You can take this person who does something, who thinks about something, and you can just start studying it by trying to analyze thoughts. Like, so why in the beginning I said that thoughts aren't mine, like that they're kind of independent process. So yeah, it feels that they might, but if to consider it deeply, you can come up with a conclusion that these thoughts aren't yours very quickly. So it doesn't take a lot of time. You can just read few philosophers and immediately it will be obvious that like there's another way of looking at it. It doesn't mean that you should look at this as if your thoughts weren't yours. It's just another way, and it's really helpful when you can see like the whole picture. Because when you think that only like these thoughts, it's like a product of your, you know, self or of I, and you is somebody who makes these thoughts. It's just a half of the story. When you know a little bit more, you understand, oh, it's like environment is like really responsible for making thoughts. Now I'm in the fucking forest and my thoughts really influenced by this environment and by the way how I am making them. It would be different thoughts if I just was standing at home and talking to myself, and it would be different language, and so it's really interesting. And as I said, like learning yourself. So you start doing this just by analyzing the processes which go through like your day, so you can just start recording yourself talking about something, and you can write down your thoughts and also your actions. You analyze your actions, what you are doing, and ask why, for example. It's not just analyzing your actions, you try to understand why you work on this job, why you communicate with these people, why you like or don't like this or that. What's the point? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Like, why these goals are your goals? How did you acquire them? When? What are these people who have the same goals? Like, how you are similar or different with these people? Lots of interesting questions you may just find after. Like, I remember myself when I started just writing my experience, like once a week or once in a 2 week, I was taking a paper, like there was a journal or notebook, and I was writing like what was just happening in my life during this period. And first 3 years, I mean, it took me 3 damn years to realize that I can do it every day. And during this like 3 years I made maybe 50 notes or something like that, 50, or I mean it was much rare than just once a week. Sometimes I didn't write anything for months, but another time of course I could write something like 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, especially when I felt in love with some girls, and so it was really amazing. And so after 3 years I realized that I can ask myself every day, and it changed like everything. I really don't know, like, okay, I guess it's a complicated topic, and now I need to turn the camera because I already get out of the forest, and I need to go through traffic light, and then I turn it back